You scraped a plate into a bucket last night, peelings, the ends of things, whatever the family did not finish, and this morning you carried it out and tipped it over the fence and stood there feeling good about it, because it cost nothing and it would only have gone in the bin, and the birds came running. Most of what you tipped over that fence was fine. Some of it was doing nothing at all for them, and a small part of it, and it is a smaller part than the internet will tell you, could put a bird on the floor of that shed by Friday. There is a tray in my hands. You have seen it already. It is on the front of this video. 2 halves. 1 half is what I will carry out to 20 hens in about 10 minutes. The other half came out of the same kitchen on the same morning, and it is going in the fire. And here is the thing. If I asked you to point at the half that would kill a hen, most of you would point at the wrong one. You would point at the apple. You would point at the bit of orange peel. Nobody would point at the thing that actually does it, which is sitting there in plain sight, and which almost every keeper in this country hands to their birds every single week without a thought in their heads. I'm going to show you the whole tray, what goes over the fence, what goes in the fire, what genuinely does harm, and what is a story that has been repeated so many times that everybody believes it. Then I am going to tell you the part that nobody making these videos ever mentions, which is that where I am standing, a good half of what I have just described is against the law, and there is a reason for that law that cost this country £6 billion, and I remember it. And at the end, a thing you can do with your 2 hands tonight in about 10 seconds per bird that tells you whether any of it is doing what you think it is doing. My name is Angus Douglas. I am a shepherd on the west coast of Scotland, on ground my family has worked for 5 generations. 340 ewes on the hill, 41 lambings. I keep 20 hens, 16 brown and 4 grey, and there is 1 paper sack of feed in the corner of my shed that I bought in the middle of March, and it is August now and it is still better than half full. The nearest vet is 90 minutes if the road is clear, and it is not clear in February. That fact is why I know any of this. When help is far away, you stop guessing about what goes in an animal. Right. The safe half first, because that is what you came for, and I am going to go through it quickly because most of it is not complicated and the interesting part is further on. Picture the left side of my tray. Apple, cut in quarters. Pear. A handful of berries going soft. Melon rind with the pink still on it. Cucumber ends. Cabbage outer leaves, the coarse dark ones nobody in the house will eat, carrot tops and the peel, broccoli stalk chopped small, lettuce that has gone limp in the bottom of the fridge, cooked rice, a cold boiled tatty, some scrambled egg. All of that is good feeding and the birds will have the lot inside 20 minutes. A few notes on that pile and then we move on. Melon and cucumber in July are worth more than they look. Picture a hen at 4 in the afternoon in a heat wave, standing with her wings held out from her body and her beak open, panting. She is in trouble, and she will stop laying before she shows you anything else. A cold melon rind is water she will actually take, and she will sit at it and work it down to the green and cool herself doing it. Ours have never had a heat problem, but then this is the west of Scotland and heat is not the thing that troubles us. Cabbage and the coarse greens do not go on the ground. Hang them! A cabbage on a string at the height of a hen's head keeps 20 birds occupied the better part of an hour, and greens on the ground are trampled and fouled inside 10 minutes. That swinging is not a trick for their amusement. A bored hen in a run starts pulling feathers out of the bird in front of her, and once feather pecking is away in a flock, it is very hard to stop. Egg is good feeding, and there is one rule with it. Cook it, scramble it or hard boil it and mash it, shell and all, if you like. Never hand a hen a raw egg in a shell, because a hen is not stupid and she will make the connection between the thing in your hand and the thing under her, and a flock that has learned to eat its own eggs is a flock you will fight for a year. Now before I get into it, one thing and one time only. There is more of this than I can fit in any video. How to read a hen 3 days before she goes down. How to feed a flock off your own ground, month by month, winter included. What to handle yourself in the byre and what to lift the phone for. How my grandfather did the things he never wrote down. Every method I've never given out, I put all of it in a book at angusdouglaspoultry.com. Link in my description or scan the code on your screen. That is the only time you will hear me say it. Now let us get back to the video. Now, the other half of the tray. And here is where I have to slow down because there is a great deal of nonsense talked about this and I would rather you knew which of it is real. Number one, and it is not close, mould. Picture the right side of my tray, the bread with the grey-green bloom on it, the soft courgette gone to slime at one end, the cheese with the blue running through it that was never meant to be blue, the bag of bread crust that sat in a warm porch for a fortnight. That is the half going in the fire, and it is the half that kills birds. Not because a hen cannot handle a bit of dirt, she can, because certain moulds produce toxins, and the one that matters is called aflatoxin, and it comes off moulds that grow on bread, on grain, on nuts, and on anything starchy left warm and damp. It is not an upset stomach. It works on the liver, it accumulates, and the damage does not undo itself. A bird taking a little of it every week through a summer does not fall over. She goes off lay, she goes light, her comb goes pale, and you conclude she is getting old. And here is why this is the one that gets them. Nobody is frightened of bread. Everybody is frightened of the apple pips. Bread is the single most commonly fed scrap in this country, and mouldy bread is the single most commonly fed dangerous thing, and it gets handed over the fence with a smile because it seems like waste not want not. If you would not eat it, they do not get it. That is the whole rule, and it is the most useful sentence in this video. Number 2, raw beans and dried beans. This one is genuinely dangerous and almost nobody talks about it. Raw, kidney beans and most dried beans contain a compound that is toxic to birds, and it does not take much and it does not take long. Cooking destroys it completely. So cooked beans out of last night's pot are fine feeding, and a handful of dry ones out of the bag in the cupboard is not. And the difference between those two things is a rolling boil for 10 minutes. Picture the shelf in your kitchen with a bag of red kidney beans on it. That bag is more dangerous to your flock than everything else in the room put together. Number 3. Green potato and potato peelings with green in them, and the green tops of the plant, solanine. Same family as deadly nightshade, and it behaves the same way in smaller measure. A plain cold, boiled tatty is good feeding. A peeling with a green cast on it is not. Look at the peel before it goes in the bucket, and if there is green under the skin, it goes on the fire. Number 4. Avocado. Skin and stone, especially. There is a compound in it called persin, and birds are unusually badly affected by it. There is no upside and no argument here, and it is the one fruit I will say flatly never. Number 5. Anything heavily salted. Ham, bacon rind, crisps, pickles, gravy, stock, the bottom of a packet of anything. A hen is a small animal, and her body has almost no way of dealing with a load of salt. A pickle looks like a cucumber. It is not a cucumber. It is a cucumber in brine, and brine is the problem. Number 6. Onion in quantity, chocolate, coffee grounds, tea. Onion in a large dose damages the red blood cells. Chocolate and coffee carry the same class of compound that does for a dog. None of these are things a hen will seek out, and none are likely to be an accident, but a whole plate scraped over the fence contains all of them without you noticing, which is rather the point of this video. And rhubarb leaves, not the stalk, the leaf. Oxalic acid. The leaves are not fit for us either, and everybody knows that about themselves and forgets it about the birds. Now I have to correct 2 things, and both of them will cost me, because they are the 2 everybody expects to hear, and they are the 2 I do not believe. The first is apple pips. You will be told in every video on this subject that apple seeds contain cyanide and must be removed before you feed apple to a hen. That is not quite right, and I am not going to repeat it just because it is what is said. The seeds contain a compound that can release cyanide when it is broken down, yes. But the seed has a hard coat. Most of them go straight through a bird hole, and the quantity in an apple core is very small. A hen would need to eat a great many crushed seeds in one sitting for it to signify. I have thrown whole apples, cores and all to hens for 40 years off a tree at the top of this yard that drops more than I can use, and I have never had a bird harmed by it, and neither has anybody I know. The same goes for the stones in plums and cherries. A hen is not going to crack a plum stone. She has no teeth to do it with. If it makes you easier in yourself to cut the cores out, cut them out. It costs you nothing but a minute. But I am not going to tell you it is a danger, because it is not. And if I tell you that, and you find out, then everything else I've said becomes a story too. The second one is citrus. you will read that citrus stops a hen absorbing calcium and gives you soft shells. I have looked for the evidence behind that for years, and I cannot find any that stands up. What I can tell you is that mine will not eat it. I have put orange and lemon out, and they walk past it, and I have watched them do it. So the answer here is simply that it does not much matter. Put it out if you like, they will leave it, and then it sits there, going soft. And that brings us neatly to the thing that actually does harm, and nobody counts. Rats. Picture the corner of the run at 10 at night, the scraps you put out at 9 this morning, the half a cabbage they did not finish, and the crust that went soft, sitting in the wet. And something is at it. Rats do not just eat the surplus. They foul what they do not eat. They bring disease into a shed, and a rat will take eggs and will kill a chick, and once you have a run of them under a coop floor, you will not shift them in a season. The rule is simple, and it is not about toxicity at all. Put out what they will finish in 20 minutes and no more. What is left at dusk comes up and goes on the heap. Every keeper who tells me they have a rat problem is a keeper who tips a full bucket over the fence in the morning and walks away. Now, the part that nobody making these videos ever mentions, and I want to be careful and clear because it is genuinely the law and not an opinion. Here in Britain and across Europe, it is against the law to feed kitchen scraps to poultry. Not discouraged, against the law, and it applies to 20 hens in a garden exactly as it applies to a shed with 40,000 in it. The rule is about anything that has been in a kitchen, not what it is made of, where it has been. A carrot that goes from the garden to the birds is fine. The same carrot carried through the house, peeled at the sink and put in a bowl, is catering waste. And catering waste does not go to livestock. And I know how that sounds. I thought it was daft myself for about a year, and then I looked into why, and I have not thought it daft since. In 2001, this country had foot and mouth. Picture the hill behind me with no sheep on it. Pyres burning for weeks, 6 million animals destroyed, farms that had been worked for 200 years finished inside a fortnight, and men my father's age standing at a gate watching the whole of their life go into a pit. It cost this country something near £8 billion, and it broke people who never recovered. And the outbreak was traced back to a pig unit in Northumberland, where waste food had been fed untreated. One bucket of scraps. That is what started it. That is the reason for the rule. It is not tidiness, and it is not somebody in an office. It is that a disease which lives in meat can enter a country in a sandwich, and the shortest road from a sandwich to a national herd runs through somebody's back garden. So a man in Ohio can tell you cheerfully to boil up the turkey carcass for your hens, and he is not lying to you, and where he is standing it may well be perfectly legal. But he is not going to tell you it is prohibited in Britain and Europe because he does not know, and because a video that says this may not apply to you gets watched by fewer people than one that does not. Here is what I actually do, and it keeps me right. 2 buckets, and the difference between them is a doorway. The first bucket never enters the house. It sits in the porch by the back door. Into it goes anything that comes off the ground and stops there. Outer cabbage leaves stripped in the garden, carrot tops cut in the row, windfalls off the apple tree, pea haulm, bean tops, the greens out of the box, nettles and chickweed, anything I have grown and never carried through the kitchen door. That bucket goes to the hens, and there is nothing wrong with any of it. The second bucket is in the kitchen, and everything in it goes on the compost heap and comes back to me next year as soil. And I will tell you the honest truth about this because you will work it out otherwise. That first bucket takes a bit of discipline. It means topping and tailing your vegetables outside, at the tap, in the rain sometimes instead of standing at a warm sink. My wife thinks it is a great performance and she says so. It takes an extra 4 minutes a day and it means I'm not breaking a law that exists for a reason I watched happen. If you are in America or Canada or Australia, this rule is not yours, or not in this form, and you should go and look up what is actually true where you stand, rather than take a Scotsman's word for it. Now let me say one thing, and then I will not bring it up again. I have put all of it down in a book, the safe list, the dangers, the 2 buckets, the whole year of feeding a hen off your own ground. It is at angusdouglaspoultry.com. And there is a link in the description below this video, or you can scan the code on the screen if that is easier. That is all. Now, Back to the birds. Now, the thing I promised you at the start, the one you do with your hands, tonight. Everything I have said so far is about what goes in. This is how you find out what is actually happening, and there is no equipment and nobody teaches it anymore. It is called checking the crop, and it is 10 seconds a bird. A hen has a pouch at the base of her neck at the front, just above where the breast starts. That is the crop. Everything she eats goes in there first and sits, and it works down through the night. So, last thing at dusk, when they have gone up to roost and they are quiet and easy to lift, put your hand flat on the front of her chest and feel just under the throat. A hen who has fed well that day has a crop like a small soft orange, full and yielding, and you will feel the shape of what is in it. Grains, grit, bits of green. That is what you want. A full crop at dusk means the day worked. Then, in the morning, before you let them out, feel the same bird again. It should be empty, flat, soft, nothing there. That is a bird whose gut is working properly and who is ready for the day. Now, the two things you are looking for, and this is why the check is worth knowing. If the crop is full at dusk and still full and hard in the morning, like a stone or a bag of grain, that is an impacted crop. She has taken in something fibrous, long grass or straw, or a mat of stringy greens, and it has bound up. She will not resolve that on her own, and she will go downhill inside a few days. If it is full in the morning, and soft and squashy, and there is a sour smell of her breath when you hold her, that is sour crop, which is a different thing entirely and wants different handling. Either of those, that is a vet. Not a video, not a tip in a comment, and not me. I'm telling you how to find it 4 days before it becomes obvious, and finding it early is the whole value. Because a bird found early is a bird that gets better. This is the line I will not cross with you. What I keep is birds that do not need help, and that is not the same as withholding help when they do. Do that check on one bird tonight and you will do it for the rest of your life, because once you know what a good crop feels like, you cannot unknow it, and you will find yourself doing it without deciding to. The way you check a gate is shut. No feed company has paid me for anything in this video, and none ever will, because the day I take money from a mill is the day I can no longer tell you what is in the bag. I mentioned the book once, and I have not mentioned it since, and I am not going to again. Everything I have actually shown you needs a tray, 2 buckets, a length of string for the cabbage, and your own 2 hands. And I will say the wider thing because it is the reason I bother making these. None of what I have told you was ever specialist knowledge. My grandmother could have gone through that tray in about 90 seconds and told you which half went to the hens, which half went to the pig, and which half went on the fire, and she would not have thought she was doing anything clever, any more than she thought banking a fire was clever. It was ordinary. Everybody knew it. Then the chain broke in about 2 generations. There are more hens in back gardens in this country now than at any time since the war, and almost nobody keeping them was taught one word of it by anybody who had done it. So the knowledge comes off a screen instead, from a man 3,000 miles away in a different climate under a different law, and most of what he says is right, and the bits that are not right are exactly the bits he has no way of knowing are wrong. So, 3 things this week. Go and look in your bread bin and your fruit bowl and understand that the mould is the danger and the apple pips are not. Set a bucket in your porch that never goes into the kitchen and top and tail your vegetables outside from now on. And tonight, when they have gone up to roost, lift 1 bird and feel her crop, and feel it again in the morning. Tell me in the comments which country you're in and what you tip over that fence. And tell me if you've ever had a bird go off after scraps and what you fed her, because I would rather learn the local mistakes from you than guess at them. I read every one. Next time I'm going to show you what my grandmother did with a hen whose crop was bound, with warm water in the flat of her hand and about 4 minutes, standing at the byre door. It looks alarming the first time you see it, and it saves the bird. And I'm also going to tell you the one situation where you must not do it and must lift the phone instead, because getting that wrong will kill her faster than the crop would. Until then, burn the mould, hang the cabbage, feel the crop.